It started small. So small you almost missed it. Maybe they told you that you were remembering something wrong. Maybe they said you were too sensitive. Maybe they looked at you like you were crazy for feeling what you were feeling. And you thought, okay, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm overreacting. But then it happened again and again. And somewhere along the way, without you even noticing, you stopped trusting yourself. You started double-checking your own memories, second-guessing your own reactions, apologizing for things you weren't even sure you did wrong. And the scariest part? You thought that was just you. You thought something was wrong with your mind. But here's the truth. Nothing is wrong with your mind. Something was done to your mind. And it has a name. Stay with me.
Gaslighting is one of the most misunderstood words in psychology right now. Most people think it just means someone lying to you. It is so much more than that. Gaslighting is a systematic pattern of psychological manipulation where someone causes you to question your own memory, your own perception, and ultimately, your own sanity. The word comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight, where a husband secretly dims the gas lights in his house and then tells his wife she's imagining it when she notices, over and over, until she genuinely starts to believe she is losing her mind. That is gaslighting. Not a single lie, a sustained, deliberate campaign to make you distrust yourself. And here's why it is so terrifying. It doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like you failing.
Let's talk about what is actually happening inside your brain when this is done to you. Your brain has a system for processing reality. Every experience you have, every conversation, every event, every emotion, your brain encodes it, stores it, and uses it to make sense of the world. This system depends on one thing above everything else: trust in your own perception. When you see something, you trust that you saw it. When you feel something, you trust that you felt it. When you remember something, you trust that it happened. That trust is the foundation of your psychological stability. Gaslighting attacks that foundation directly. Every time someone tells you that what you saw didn't happen, your brain has to reconcile two conflicting realities. Your memory says one thing, someone you trust says another, and your brain, trying to resolve the conflict, starts to waver. Maybe I did imagine it. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe my memory really is that bad. Over time, with enough repetition, your brain starts defaulting to their version of reality instead of your own. Not because you're weak, because your brain is doing what it was designed to do: update its model of the world based on new information. The problem is, the information it is receiving is deliberately false.
Now, here is where the neuroscience gets really important. When you're in a close relationship with someone, a partner, a parent, a close friend, your brain does something remarkable. It starts to use them as a reference point for reality. Psychologists call this social reality testing. We all do it. When something confusing happens, we check with people we trust to see if we're reading it right. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Did that really just happen? Am I overreacting? This is completely normal. But gaslighting hijacks this system. When your trusted person, the one your brain uses as a reality reference, is consistently telling you that your perception is wrong, your memory is faulty, your emotions are irrational, your brain doesn't know what to do with that. It cannot process that the person it trusts most is the source of the problem. So instead, it turns inward and starts dismantling your confidence in yourself.
And then the self-doubt spiral begins. This is the part that does the most long-term damage. Because once you stop trusting your own perception, everything becomes uncertain. Did that conversation really go that way? Did I actually say that? Was I really that angry, or am I remembering it wrong? And the more uncertain you become, the more you turn to the gaslighter for answers, which is exactly where they want you. Because now you are dependent on them to tell you what is real. Your own mind has been made unreliable, and theirs has become the authority. This is not an accident. This is the point. There are patterns, specific things gaslighters say and do, and once you know them, you'll start recognizing them everywhere. The first one is flat denial. You bring up something that happened, they look at you and say, "That never happened." Not, "I remember it differently," not, "Maybe you misunderstood." That never happened. Full stop. Said with complete confidence, complete calm. And your brain, confronted with that certainty, starts to wobble. The second one is trivializing your emotions. You express how something made you feel, and they say, "You're so sensitive. You always take everything so personally. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of everything?" Over time, you stop expressing how you feel, because every time you do, you end up feeling worse. The third one is rewriting history. They change the details of past events, slowly, subtly, until the version in your head and the version they're telling don't match anymore, and you genuinely don't know which one is right. The fourth one is using other people as weapons. Everyone thinks you overreact. Everyone agrees with me. Even your own friends think you're too much. Suddenly, you're not just doubting yourself, you're isolated too. The fifth one is questioning your mental stability. You're paranoid. You're too emotional. Maybe you should see someone about this. Framing your healthy responses to unhealthy treatment as symptoms of a problem you have.
Here is what gaslighting does to you over time. It creates something called cognitive dissonance on a loop. Your gut says something is wrong. Your gaslighter says everything's fine, and it's you who has the problem. Your brain tries to hold both of those at the same time, and it cannot. So it resolves the conflict by suppressing the gut feeling. Over and over, for months, for years sometimes, until the gut feeling gets quieter, until you barely hear it anymore, until someone asks you how you're doing and you genuinely don't know, because you have been trained not to trust the part of you that would answer that question honestly.
So how do you find your way back? Because that is the real question. Not just understanding what happened, but how do you rebuild trust in yourself after someone has spent months or years taking it apart? First, start writing things down. Not to prove anything to anyone, just for you. When something happens, write it down. What was said, what you felt, what you observed. Your written record becomes an anchor, something outside your head that you can go back to when your perception starts to waver. It is very hard to gaslight someone who has been quietly keeping receipts. Second, pay attention to how you feel after interactions, not during. During, gaslighters are often calm, logical, reasonable sounding. That's part of what makes it so confusing. But after, notice what your body's doing. Are you exhausted? Anxious? Do you feel smaller than when the conversation started? Do you find yourself running the conversation on loop, trying to figure out where you went wrong? Your body knows before your brain catches up. Start listening to it. Third, find one person outside the relationship who you trust completely. Not to validate your every feeling, but to give you an outside perspective when your own starts to blur. Gaslighters work best in isolation. The more people you have in your life who know you and reflect you accurately, the harder it is for any one person to rewrite who you are. Fourth, understand that rebuilding trust in yourself is slow. It took time to erode.
It will take time to restore. Be patient with yourself when you second guess, when you wobble, when you catch yourself reaching for their version of reality even after you know what they did. That is not weakness. That is your brain unlearning something it was taught very deliberately. And it can unlearn it.
Here is what I want to leave you with. Your perception is not the problem. Your memory is not the problem. Your emotions are not the problem. The problem was someone who needed you to believe all of those things so that you would stop trusting yourself and start trusting them instead. That was never about you being too much. It was about them needing control. And the most powerful thing you can do, the thing that undoes all of it, is simple. Start believing yourself again. Not all at once, not perfectly, just a little more than yesterday. Because every time you trust your own gut, every time you say, I know what I experienced, you take back one piece of something that was taken from you. And eventually, piece by piece, you come back to yourself. If this explains something you have been trying to understand for a long time, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go even deeper on how these patterns work together to trap people, the next video is already there. I'll see you in it.